Welcome back to the Basic Radio User Training Program. In this unit, we will take a look at the issues relating to interoperability and why this course is so very important to every responder and emergency manager. We will also evaluate lessons learned from real-life events and how they solidify the need for interoperability and training on communication capabilities. Across the state of Texas, millions of tax dollars have been spent in the name of interoperability. In the Heart of Texas region alone, we have spent more than $3 million on infrastructure and subscriber units using state Homeland Security Grant Program funds. Local agencies and jurisdictions have spent local funds on these same issues. Still, with all of the money spent, many agencies cannot or do not communicate on interoperable channels, even when the radios are freshly out of the box. Today, we continually face concerns related to the inability of responders to communicate. The question that we pose is why? Asking why two individuals cannot communicate using land mobile radio technologies is a complicated and far-reaching question. There are many issues that can occur that influence whether or not communications are successful. However, over the course of time, the review of real-life incidents and events have demonstrated a number of recurring problems that we can and should address. One of the most common issues found when agencies are unable to communicate with one another is that interoperable channels are not programmed into the user's radios. Superficially, this would seem to only be an issue caused by the programmer. However, there are more significant considerations to be made. The lack of interoperability channels in the radio depicts a lack of recognition of the importance of interoperability at the department leadership level. Furthermore, it indicates an inherent lack of planning by department leaders in ensuring that long-range communication needs are addressed. It is very important to understand that the purpose of discussing issues is not to place blame. Instead, we want to determine how to fix the issue, educate department and agency personnel accordingly, and ensure the safety and response effectiveness of our members. When responders demonstrate a lack of knowledge as to whether a specific channel is programmed into their radios, it proves that a training gap also exists. If someone, whether it was the programmer or the responder, had dialed through the channels and groups, the answer would be known. When personnel don't scroll through their radio, it typically indicates that they're afraid of not being able to get back to their primary channel, afraid of possibly overriding the programming of the radio, or have been instructed not to change radio settings. In any case, training becomes a proven shortcoming with the department or agency. More concerning is the fact that many of these radios were purchased using funding that specifically targeted interoperability. Funding streams such as the Public Safety Interoperable Communications Grant Program and the Homeland Security Grant Program specifically focused on establishing and enhancing interoperable communications and contained stipulations within the subrecipient agreements that the receiving party would adhere to the standards and the requirements that assist in ensuring interoperability. On occasion, it is found that an interoperability channel may be programmed into the radio, but the channel's name is incorrectly entered within the programming code. Many times, this is simply an oversight by the programmer or the person who provided the frequency or channel list to the programmer. This is most commonly seen when a user has the Texas Fire, Texas Med, and Texas Law channels programmed. These channels no longer exist, even though the frequencies are still in use. Instead, these channels have been renamed in accordance with a defined standard, which has been made publicly available since 2013. The channel nomenclature or naming standard is contained within the Texas Statewide Interoperability Channel Plan. The TSICP also contains a Memorandum of Understanding to be executed between the agency or department and the Texas Department of Public Safety. The purpose of the MOU is to legally allow your agency the use of the interoperability channels even though they're not directly licensed to you or your agency. The most significant and widely occurring issue, however, is not related to programming, a lack of MOU, or improper naming. This issue is far more widely found and far more threatening. The greatest issue is that many users don't know how to change the channel or group selector on the radio to access the interoperable channels. Those users have stated repeatedly that they never received training on the proper use of the equipment assigned to them and were never instructed on any department standard for communications if one had existed. For the departments and agencies who did not have a communication standard, no standardized programming template had been established, which resulted in radios with the same department or agency being programmed differently. Channel order, channel naming, and even the existence of channels in the programming list were not shared between radios on the department or agency. On June 28, 2013, a lightning strike ignited a wildfire on Bureau of Land Management property near Yarnell, Arizona. As the wildfire raged out of control, fire departments and hotshot crews battled the wind-driven blaze. On June 30th, 19 firefighters with the Prescott Fire Department's interagency Granite Mountain Hotshots were overrun and killed by the fire. According to the National Fire Protection Association, the Yarnell Hill Fire became the deadliest wildfire since 1991, the greatest loss of firefighters since the World Trade Center attacks in 2001, and the sixth deadliest American firefighter disaster to have occurred in recorded history. Following the incident, the investigative report findings demonstrated significant concerns relating to the use of communications and supportive technologies. The review team responsible for the investigative report recommended that the state of Arizona review the statewide wildfire communications plan and program, as well as similar programs and plans in all parts of the state for potential improvements. Additionally, the team recommended that the state of Arizona request the National Wildfire Coordination Group, or NWCG, to review existing technologies that could increase resource tracking, communications, real-time weather monitoring, and more. Throughout this unit, we discussed three considerable issues pertaining to interoperability in the state of Texas. We also looked at the Yarnell Hill fire and the death of 19 firefighters and how the event raised significant concern for interoperability. Unfortunately, the Yarnell Hill fire is not the only incident in which the lack of interoperability could be attributed to the loss of life. Therefore, it is very important that department, agency, and jurisdictional leadership take a serious look at their communication capabilities, plan for improvement, and place a higher priority on communication training and equipment enhancement. Be sure to complete the activities below in order to unlock Unit 7. In Unit 7, we wrap up the course and discuss what you need to do to receive continuing education credit for your time and effort. Until then, stay safe, be aware, and keep up the great work that you do in your community.